today. Give it just a second for the last few people to join us. Great. Well, I'm going to get started. Hi, my name's Kate Crockett. I'm from RB Advisory, and I'm your host this morning for this amazing event. None of this would be possible without our generous support of our Bronze Chapter sponsor, Orlando Health. Orlando Health provides excellence in healthcare with award-winning hospitals, clinics, and over 2,000 physicians through Central Florida. We owe a special thanks to Megan Almasi and all the doctors who will join us today to discuss these important topics related to women's health. We also want to thank our VIP industry speakers for joining us this morning as well. Your perspectives on how to thrive in current times and move forward to succeed this year and beyond are so important to our community to hear. As entrepreneurs, you each know firsthand the challenges that many of our members have faced this year. We also are better together, and we thank you for your support. The National Association of Women Business Owners propels women entrepreneurs into economic, social, and political spheres of power worldwide. To be our best in business, our entrepreneurs and their families have to be well in every sense. So today we will explore topics from mindset and nutrition to information related to resilience, cardiac health, and women's wellness. For those who shared your mailing address, you might have already received a package. I received mine this morning. I'm super excited. Got my NAWBO magnet. Lovely Tupperware from Orlando Health with some goodies in it. And also no more nausea. So, and we've got a bunch of other good stuff. So I hope you all got your package this morning, or maybe a little sooner, or it should be on its way. So first, I'd like to introduce Dr. Stephanie Burgos. As one of the nation's acclaimed emergency medicine physicians, Dr. Stephanie Burgos is also a bestseller author, wellness and embodiment coach, breathe work facilitator, speaker, and social influencer. Dr. Stephanie works with women who feel frustrated in their body and burnt out in life, and helps them shed the dense physical layers of self-doubt, reclaim their body, and reconnect with their self-worth, confidence, joy, and power. Please help me welcome Dr. Burgos, speaking on cultivating positivity and self-confidence in a changing world. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Kate, for that beautiful welcome. I'm going to go ahead, everyone, and just quickly share my screen. It is such an honor to be here with you all this morning. And thank you so much, most of all, for taking time, right? Because at the end of the day, time is our most valuable asset. So being willing to take time out of your busy day to come and learn more about wellness and really cultivating positivity and self-confidence in a changing world, which is specifically my topic. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. So I wanna ask you a few questions. What comes to mind when you fail or get rejected, or when things happen out of your control? You know, does your confidence take a hit? Do you get really, one second, sorry, I'm trying to move this. Do you get really hard on yourself when things do not work out? And do you list everything that you did wrong? So I'm an achiever just like every single one of you. And when I started applying to medical school, I got the biggest wake-up call of my life. You see, I had gone through high school, I had gone through college, I was, top of the class, just like every single one of you. I'm sure you're used to achieving great things in your life. And I remember that when I started applying to medical school, I was told that I wouldn't be able to get in. And I was told that I would have a huge difficulty, getting into school. And I decided to apply anyway. And I decided to put myself out there. And I actually applied very broadly, and I applied to 30 schools. And as I was waiting for that first kind of, announcement or that first letter coming from the school, what ended up happening was that that first letter ended up being a rejection, and it ended up being a no. The second letter ended up being a no. The third letter ended up being a no. All the way to, I wasn't the best as well as standardized tests and applied to over 30 schools, like I said, and I got 29 rejections all in a row. And I share this because this was a key pivotal time in my life when it came to developing confidence and understanding my self-worth. And so the question I have for you is that at that time, I remember that there was one school that was missing. What I ended up doing was I ended up picking up the phone and I called them and I said, hello, like what happened? You know, where is my application? I haven't heard from you. And I was talking with them and they were like, yes, we've lost your application. We're going to get back to you. And what ended up happening, I waited another week. And what ended up happening is that I got in, right? Because at the end of the day, it only takes one opportunity, right? One foot in the door. So I preface this with saying, would you have called? How many of you would have called after getting 29 no's? How many of you, after getting 29 doors shut in your face, would you have picked up the phone and called? And how many of you would have believed in yourself enough, right? At the end of the day, would you have had that negative self-talk that says, no, this is not worth it. It's not worth it for me to pick up the phone. Everyone else has said no. It's not worth it. They're going to say no as well. And would you have given up? How many do you know who have given up, right? At one rejection, at two rejections, when things don't work out as planned, how many of you would have given up? And would you have had the confidence to know that without a doubt, you would move forward and you would succeed? And do you have confidence in yourself now? So these are the questions that I want you asking yourself as I'm kind of going through the rest of this presentation. So what's the elephant in the room, right? That's why I had an elephant at the beginning of the slide. So what's the elephant in the room when it comes to confidence and positivity? It's that in a world of priorities, when it comes to your health, you put yourself last. That is what it is. In a world of doing things for your kids, doing things for work, going after these big dreams, striving, that achiever's ladder of working up that ladder, you put yourself last. And the results are crystal clear, right? The results are crystal clear. When we look at the problems around our country, when we look at the problems around the world, we have obesity that is still such a rampant. It is literally the weight of our country. We have depression, we have anxiety, we have trouble sleeping. More than 50% of people have trouble sleeping. That is a humongous problem when it comes to productivity, when it comes to restoration, when it comes to healing. And at the end of the day, we've all made it so complicated when it comes to our health. And there's no secret sauce, right? There's no secret sauce when it comes to getting healthy, when it comes to putting yourself first. So now before you go ahead and you roll your eyes at me and you're like, Dr. Stephanie, I have heard all of these things before. The question is 70%, not the question, but the facts show that 70% of adults here are overweight. And we see it all around us, right? I'm sure every single one of you have family members that are overweight, that have, that are taking tons of medications for their health. So I don't care if you know what I'm going to be sharing with you. The question is, are you taking action and are you being what you know, right? Because there's a difference between what you know. All of us know a lot of beautiful and wonderful things. The question is, are you taking action and are you being those things that you know? That is the key difference. And honestly, being unhealthy is a lot of money. So what I want to do is I want to share with you really quickly 5 little tips about how to really start shifting your mindset. Number 1 is to face the truth. It's to really look at yourself and take inventory of where are you physically, emotionally, where are you mentally? Look at yourself in the mirror and really ask yourself, how have you let yourself go? If you have, and be honest with yourself. Stop putting a facade over your face. Stop putting all this makeup on your face. It's time to take the makeup off, and it's time to look at yourself honestly in the mirror and be real about where you are in your current state. Number 2 is to gain clarity. Gain clarity about where it is that you want to go. How is it that you want to feel in your body? How is it that you want to feel in your mindset? How do you want to wake up every single day? Because at the end of the day, the way your positivity, confidence doesn't come from the outside world. It comes all from within. It comes from how you start your day. It comes from how you think every morning. It comes from how you think about yourself and you think about the situations in your life. And so what is it that you're trying to accomplish? How is it that you're trying to think? And really get crystal clear through journaling, meditation, and gain clarity about where it is that you want to go. We're really good at that, right? At business, we're really good at that towards our goals. You know, especially those of us who are physicians, we knew exactly what we needed to do. We knew exactly the little checklist that we needed to check off to be able to get where we needed to go. We need to do the same thing with our life, with our goals, with the ways that we want to feel. Number 3 is to focus on progress and not perfection. At the end of the day, guys, understanding that perfection, it is like literally the Achilles heel of overachievers, of achievers, of people in business, of healthcare providers, and understanding that perfection does not exist. And it's actually the lowest human standard because it doesn't exist. And if anything, it paralyzes us. It paralyzes us from moving forward. It makes us overthink that we're not enough. It makes us compare ourselves endlessly, that we can't do what we want to do. And what ends up happening is that we don't take action. So when it comes to your health, it's understanding that this is not something that you're going to get right 100% of the time. And that is okay. Why put that type of pressure on you, right? It's about balance. And so understanding that it's about taking one step forward and having progress every single day, having progress. Number 4 is to honor your body. This is key. This is what I do in my life's work, is helping women to honor their body, because at the end of the day, realizing that your body does so much for you. Your heart pumps 5 to 7 liters of blood per minute. Right now, as you're sitting here, your lungs are breathing for you. And how many of you take time to actually give back to yourself? How many of you take time to take care of your body? Or are you treating it like a beat up car? A lot of us, you know, it's understanding we only get one car, like one body. It's literally like a car. And how many of you are not going for oil checks? You're giving it the worst fuel. You're literally, you know, you're running it to the ground, expecting, it's literally running on 3 wheels. And it's like the 4th wheel is like just popped. And you're like, no, we're going to go. And it's like, it's not about that. And look, many of you think that you're going to be able to just go to the end, you know, go to the next store and turn it in. And it's not about that, guys. It's really about taking time to honor your body, making sure that you're making time for movement, right? Movement is such a beautiful way to release stress, beautiful way to get good endorphins. I think someone else is going to talk about exercise later on. But again, movement is important. Making sure that you're fueling yourself well with nutritious food. You know, we have Tina, who's going to be sharing with you some options about nutritious food. So really making sure that you're fueling yourself well, getting that key movement in is super important. And then the last thing is fueling your mind every single day. Not just, again, it's not just about the body. It's really about how are you thinking? What are you feeding up here? What are you feeding in your mindset every single day? Every morning, guys, I start my day with meditation. I start my day with journaling. I start my day with personal development, where I am reading something to help me grow. I use my car as a university, like an audible university. I'm listening to audible books about myself. So again, what are you doing to fuel your mind? Because at the end of the day, it's realizing that all of the joy, all of the confidence, all of the fulfillment, all of the, you know, the happiness, the laughter, everything that you are craving in your life, that fulfillment, the vitality, it doesn't start from the outside. It doesn't start from the outside. So stop looking in the outside and stop asking and stop looking for motivation from the outside, because it truly starts from within you and the daily small things that you're doing every single day. So your confidence and positivity will improve when you start to put yourself first. Because again, guys, look, we are in a changing world. You haven't accepted that yet. You need to accept that. The only constant thing is change. That is the only, thing that we are super sure of. But what can we control? We can control how we treat ourselves. We can control how we move our body. We can control how we think. We can control how we eat. These are the things that are within our control. And this is how, when you realize that, you will be able to create confidence and positivity for yourself. So stop waiting for the right time. Stop making it more complicated, and don't waste another day. Just start now. Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and kick it off to Kate again. And thank you so much for your time and attention. Oh, Kate, you're muted. You're muted, Kate.
Sorry about that. I love that. The ending of the control of our body, you know, that's so important. I have a daughter, and so, you know, they're always looking at the secret sauce you mentioned. And so perfection doesn't exist. And that was a really amazing point. I wish she actually was here to listen. So thank you so much. I really enjoyed that, Dr. Burgos. And next we have Tina Wells. Tina is a professional pastry chef for many years. Tina's passion for baking was rivaled only by her joy of cooking for her family and friends. With her Mediterranean background, it was second nature to always incorporate wholeness ingredients or wholesome ingredients and healthy methods of cooking into her cuisine. Yet despite her lifestyle, she found her health declining. Tina was ultimately diagnosed with a thyroid autoimmune disorder. On the recommendation of her doctor, she began the Whole30 program as a means to help minimize her symptoms and subsequently adopted an ongoing paleo diet. Little did she know that this change in food habits would significantly transform her health and launch her into a new lifestyle cooking venture. Today, Tina works developing paleo and Whole30 compatible recipes for her website, Living Delish and Nutrish, and hosts live cooking segments to share her knowledge. Using nutrient-packed quality ingredients, Tina brings the confidence and knowledge of her health journey to all her recipes. She believes that food is medicine and that food choices impact every aspect of your life. She believes that food is, you can find her at Living Delish and Nutrish on all social media channels. She is happy to share all she has discovered and hopes you will join her in the pursuit of all healthy things. Please help me welcome Tina Wells, speaking on wellness from the kitchen, literally from the kitchen, and it's a beautiful kitchen. Welcome, Tina.
Literally from the kitchen. Good morning, everyone. Happy Saturday, and thank you so much for including me in this exciting and informative event. I'm so thrilled to be a part of this because sharing food is what I do. So today I'm going to show you a shareable appetizer. But let me tell you first, during these unprecedented times, we really feel like so many things are just out of our control. But what's the one thing we can control? What we eat. So before we go diving into that pint of ice cream with 2 spoons, let's talk about making some healthy choices. You can just make it as simple as lots of vegetables, sustainable proteins, and healthy fats. I mean, it's really no more difficult than that. So I like to call it crowding out. So when you think about what you're putting on your plate, pack it with as many nutrients as possible. And then you crowd out the extra sugars and the processed foods. So it really is not that difficult to make some simple changes and really improve how you eat. When I became a certified Whole30 coach, I had been doing Whole30 for almost 6 years. And I really enjoyed the program so much that I felt like I could help others. So becoming a coach really changed not only my life, but now I'm trying to help change other people's lives. And it starts in your gut. So I always say your gut is your dirt. Do you want to grow weeds or do you want to grow flowers? I want to grow flowers. So I'm going to fill up my body with as many healthy ingredients as possible. Today, I just wanted to show you a really simple recipe. Some things, I just like to call them no recipe recipes because you almost don't need a recipe at all. I'm going to use my food processor. If you have a blender or you just want to beat it up with a fork or a couple of knives, you can do that too. The first thing I'm doing with this recipe is I have an eggplant. It doesn't look like an eggplant anymore, but what I did was I roasted it in the oven and then I peeled it and removed the seeds. You can do this on the grill if you wanted to have a nice charred flavor. It was raining yesterday, so I did it in the oven. Things are flexible. Let's just do what works. I'm going to put that in the food processor with a whole clove of garlic. I love garlic. You can do 2 cloves of garlic. You can do no garlic. I think the garlic gives it a little bit of extra. So I'm just going to pulse this so that it starts to smooth out a little bit. And the nice thing about this appetizer is it's shareable you know, right now it's difficult to get together, but we do want to try and do some socially distanced gathering. It feels good to get together with people we know and love. So you'll see when I assemble this, how easy it is to share without everyone dipping into the same bowl of baba ganoush. So this next ingredient is a little interesting. It's Kite Hill Greek almond milk yogurt. So this is going in, it's dairy free, which is Whole30 because we don't eat dairy. I'm just gonna do about a half a container for that one eggplant. And it makes it nice and smooth and gives it a creamy consistency without adding the dairy. I'm just gonna pulse that again a little bit more. And this next ingredient is tahini. Tahini is a sesame paste. You can buy it in any grocery store these days. A long time ago, you could only get it at importing stores, Mediterranean stores, things like that. But now you can find it pretty much anywhere in the international section. That's about 2 tablespoons of tahini. And again, every time I add a new ingredient, I'm just gonna process it a couple more times, keeping it smooth and keeping it nice and blended in. Here's another thing you need to know. If you're using a rubber spatula in your food processor, be careful not to get it stuck in the blade because those blades are sharp. One more time, and now I'm gonna leave it running and just add a little bit of olive oil. Again, another healthy fat, so good for you, great for heart health. And some salt and pepper. I'm using my Maldon sea salt. And fresh ground peppers. And that's it. I'll just set this aside. And I have these peppers already halved and cleaned out. They're just those mini peppers that you can buy in a bag in the grocery store. Cut them in half lengthwise. And there's very little seeds in the very top, so they're really easy to clean. I'm just gonna remove. And I'm going to use a pastry bag. If you don't have pastry bags, you can get away with using a Ziploc bag. I'm a pastry chef, so I still use my old equipment. And I'm just turning it down a little bit so that when I put the baba ganoush into the bag, it doesn't get a messy top. Here's another trick that I like to share with people. You know how that blade always falls out of the bottom of your food processor? Stick your finger in that hole, and then when you tilt it to scrape out the baba ganoush, the blade doesn't fall out. So now I'm just gonna pour that in. It's a little tricky. Let me grab a glass. If you stand your pastry bag up in a glass, it's like having a third hand. So now I'm just gonna put that in here. And it's nice and smooth and creamy. And I can smell that roasted eggplant and that delicious garlic. And the thing about doing this in a pastry bag is it gives you so much more control. You could certainly spoon this right into the peppers if you like. I just cut the bottom off with the little scissors and I'm just gonna squeeze it in. You can refrigerate these before you serve them. Everyone can pick one up and have an individual appetizer. Like I said, you don't have to worry about people dipping and re-dipping into the same bowl. It's a little cleaner. And then I'm just gonna put a little parsley on top. You can top this with some shredded chicken if you wanted to add some protein. You could use big peppers if you wanted to serve it as a larger portion size. I love my parsley. And that's it. Delish and nutrish. Thank you again for having me. I really appreciate the time that you've spent with me today. Feel free to look me up online if you ever have questions about any recipes, and I hope we can meet again soon. Happy Saturday. Kate, back to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tina. Oh, that looks delicious. You're making me super hungry now. Wonderful. I love the third hand trick. That I'm going to use because I've never even thought of that. So thank you for that little tip. So wonderful. We have Allison Hayden joining us next from the No Time to Waste Project. Allison is a marketing executive, veteran speaker, adventurer, and reluctant cancer warrior battling metastatic breast cancer after getting diagnosed at a fit and seemingly healthy age of 38, young. A TEDx speaker with 15 years of experience engaging business audience on stages all over the world. Allison is excited to share what she now believes is the most important information of all, how to live like there's no time to waste. Allison is here to challenge and inspire us to pursue a more intentional life by confronting our mortality head on, crafting a life without regrets, and harnessing the untapped power that lies within each one of us to live every day like there's no time to waste. Please welcome Allison Hayden. Thank you so much. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. This is already such a awesomely curated event. I love how everything you're tying together really kind of mind, body, and spirit wellness. So I'm honored to have been asked to participate. So thank you. Also, it's early morning here in Boulder, Colorado, where I live. And I have to be honest, the peppers that I just saw stuffed with the baba ganoush from that wonderful Whole30 chef look actually delicious. So it's making me hungry. But what we heard from the first speaker today was, the only thing that's constant in our lives is change. And I think for the people who are attending this event today, business owners, women, you know more than almost anybody how uncertain life is, because thanks to the year that is 2020, you've all learned the hard way that what you planned for this year probably is not what worked out. And I know this all too well. As it was mentioned in my intro, I'm currently 40 years old. I was diagnosed about 2 years ago, seemingly fit and healthy with advanced breast cancer, which came as a shock to friends and family because as a lifelong athlete and adventurer, I had been, friends would describe me as the healthiest person they know. So the day after, I think I ran 5 or 6 miles on the trails and I got diagnosed, it was a shock. I went through 15 months of treatment, 5 months of chemo, I had a mastectomy, and then I had 6 weeks of daily radiation and then 6 months of pill chemo. I was hoping that the cancer story of mine was behind me, and I was very eager to kind of move on and move forward in my sort of pre-cancer life. I began speaking, and I started to realize that my way of living, the way that I'd really lived my whole life, could be beneficial if I shared it with other people. And that was when I started to really think about what it means to recognize that, we all have a terminal illness. It's called life. And that's a scary thing to think about, the fact that none of us are immortal and death is actually the only universal inevitability. The way I think about it in terms of living life like there's no time to waste is, we all have this terminal illness. We all are going to die at some point. And if we had the courage to face that mortality and face that truth, maybe we would live our lives a little bit differently. So back to my story, I thought in the fall that I would have been able to put the cancer story behind me. In March of this year of 2020, I started to have some cognitive processing issues mentally. I just wasn't all there, and I started to deteriorate mentally and physically really quickly. And what they found in April was that I actually had a metastatic brain tumor the size of a lemon that was in the frontal lobe of my brain, and I had to have emergency brain surgery. That surgery, luckily, went well. I recovered over the summer. And once again, I was hoping that although, yes, I was stage 4 at this point, I was really hoping that the cancer wouldn't show up again for another 30 years. And that was a possibility. I was really looking forward to just kind of exploring the outdoors in my new home here in Boulder. I was incredibly grateful every day that the brain surgery had gone well. I was looking at new opportunities because as a marketing executive, my most recent company was MindBody, which a lot of people are familiar with. I was looking forward to my next opportunity. And again, I was moving forward and excited to kind of move on from cancer. Unfortunately, I started to have some respiratory issues this summer in June and July. We thought it was COVID. We went through everything in terms of testing. And unfortunately, we found out a little over a month ago that the cancer had returned in my chest. I would have to start chemotherapy and go back into treatment indefinitely. And my prognosis changed from potentially living out my full life term if the cancer didn't show up to, the doctor told me to hope for a couple of years, although some people had lived 5 to 10. So I'm now in a completely different state than I was a month or a month and a half ago. And living my life today, like there's no time to waste, is more important and more relevant than ever. So when I think about living life like there's no time to waste, again, I think we as humans, I did a lot of research before my TED Talk in February of this year. If you'd like to see that TED Talk, it's called Confronting Death to Live a Fuller Life. You can find it at my website at notimetowasteproject.com. In that TEDx talk, I talk a lot about the fear that we have as humans around our own death. It's a real thing. There's a lot of research behind it. It's called death anxiety. And from it came something called terror management theory, which essentially says that the thought of not existing as humans puts us in such a state of existential terror that we as humans, our systems essentially want to avoid it altogether. Understandable, right? It's the reason why I don't think we sit around at the dinner table or see old friends and just start talking about the fact that, hey, we're going to die. Do you think it's going to be tomorrow? Do you think it's going to be a couple years from now? Am I going to live until I'm 80? No, we don't talk about death like that. We avoid it. And the sad thing is that unless we're faced with death, either through illness, like me, through tragedy and crisis, most of us don't think about the fact that nothing in this life is guaranteed. So my goal with No Time to Waste in this project is to remind people that none of us are invincible. None of us are immortal. But if we face that fact and start to talk about it with people we trust, maybe we have the opportunity to live our lives differently and craft a life without regrets. And as I talk about it with No Time to Waste, maximize our moments, focused on 3 different things. 1, focused on gratitude, which I'm going to go into in a second. 2, focused on connection, be it connection with other humans, with other people and relationships, connection to the earth and nature, or connection to our faith or our spiritual center. And then 3, craft our moments focused on joy and doing the things that light us up. I believe that if we look at every 24-hour period as the only thing that's guaranteed, if we are able to focus our time and our energy by putting those 3 things at the top of our priority list, we'll be able to end that 24-hour period, put our head down on the pillow at night and say, man, I really did it today. I focused on the things that mattered. And as a result, I had a really rich, meaningful day. And I hope I get to wake up tomorrow and do it all over again. So what I want to do is I want to focus on one of those things today and give you guys a really easy tip and tool that can help you start living life like there's no time to waste starting today. It's one of my favorite things that I think is relatively easy. So gratitude, I believe, is magic. When I think about our lives and our situations, none of us have it easy. Everyone has their own personal kind of cross to bear. But I believe that our lives are as good as our mindsets. And something that can impact and influence our mindsets almost immediately is gratitude. I think it's magic. So what I'm going to encourage everybody to do today is to start a daily gratitude practice. What you can do is also, I'm not really crafty, but I would say this is the craftiest thing I've ever done. This is a gratitude jar that I made years ago before my cancer diagnosis. I now have added my No Time to Waste sticker. But what I would recommend is at the end of every day, when you go to bed or before you go to bed, think about three things that you were grateful for that day. They don't have to be big things. They could be, you know, my kids, or they could be my dog. But they also could be, you know, I found $10 in my jeans today before I put them in the wash. They could be, I'm grateful for the fact that, you know, the rain finally stopped and the sun was out today. It's just thinking back on your 24 hours and pulling out a couple things that you're grateful for. What I recommend is find a jar. It could be a fancy one like this that you get from like Michael's or a craft store. It could be a shoebox. It could be anything that's lying around. But then take paper and write a different gratitude moment on each piece of paper and date it. Fold it up like I did here. And then put that in your gratitude jar or your gratitude box. And then what I would recommend is, be it once a week or once a month or even at the end of the year, dump out all of those little pieces of paper and read them and reflect back on those moments. And I'm telling you, if you integrate a practice like this into your daily life, that it's the thing that puts you asleep every night or the thing that you start your day with in the morning, it has the potential to dramatically change your mindset. And I believe that if you change your mindset, you change your life. So I wanted to share that with you guys. There's more tips and tricks and things that I try and share with people, little things that they can do to start living life with more intention, more meaning, more purpose. At my website at notimetowasteproject.com. You can follow No Time to Waste Project on Instagram and Facebook. And I also host a weekly show where I interview people who have overcome incredible challenges, who are resilient and gritty, from cancer survivors, but also amputee athletes, Olympic gold medalists, world champions. I just interviewed Julie Foudy yesterday, if anyone knows her, who's a US soccer legend. So I'd encourage you to check out past episodes, get inspired, get motivated, and above all else, at least look at today as the only thing that's guaranteed. And as I like to say, you know, live and love like there's no time to waste. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much for being with us. I love the no regrets. It's one of my favorite sayings. I've been big, the no guts, no glory. So thank you for being so brave and so inspirational to share that story with us. I could speak for everyone. We're going to definitely keep you in our thoughts and our prayers. And I'm going to still use my Mind and Body app too, because it's one of my favorite apps. So that's where I get my yoga.
Awesome.
So thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Allison. All right, next we are going to hear from Dr. Mary Sine, who is Director of Physician Wellness at Orlando Health. Dr. Sine leads Orlando Health's strategy to build a nationally regarded physician wellness program. Through coaching, she guides the professional development of Orlando Health's physician community, helping physicians enhance leadership skills, balance their professional, managerial, and personal responsibilities. Mary Sine, PhD, focuses on physician coaching with an emphasis on leading through self-awareness. Mary brings over 30 years of clinical practice and academic experience to her position. Since 2015, she has provided coaching to more than 250 physicians, participated in wellness training and ground rounds, consulted with senior leadership, and provided support and consultation to many outpatient and inpatient practices. Dr. Sine completed her undergraduate degree at the University of Florida in clinical psychology. After completing a master's degree in clinical psychology in 1984, she worked in the mental health field for 28 years. In 1992, she began working in the disability community on behalf of second child Patrick. Efforts included development of a behavioral center for children diagnosed with autism, Quest Kids, followed by the creation of the Center of Autism and Related Disabilities in 1997, founded the Tony Jennings Exceptional Education Institute in 1999 at the University of Central Florida. She received Governor's Points of Light Award from the state of Florida for work in areas of disability and education. Dr. Sine completed her doctoral degree in 2002 from the University of Central Florida and continued as faculty for 10 years. Please help me join Dr. Sine to discuss dealing with uncertainty, resilience, building using healthy coping strategies. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, and I feel like my comments today will build on what the presenters have already shared with you all today, particularly our last presenter and speaker, extremely powerful. And so I want to start my comments in just terms of referencing or framing a little bit regarding the COVID-19 pandemic that has been with us now for a little over 7-8 months. Certainly the national distress regarding our social injustices, what is happening, in our community, here locally, where I'm living here in Orlando, we have significant economic downturn, et cetera. And so often when I'm working with either physicians or clinical leaders, they say to me, hey, Mary, I'm stressed, but I don't know how to define the stress. What does that mean to me? And she said, I hear it all of the time. And so what I like to help people kind of understand is stress really happens in a variety of ways, but what the literature tells us and how psychology science defines it for us is stress is either acute, it's chronic, or it's complex. Acute is those kinds of things that happen to each of us every day. We lose our keys, we're late for work, we forget to do something, and for you all as business owners, you have a lot of things that you're working through and working on and responsible for, and so you have those little things every day. And what happens is the stressor happens, you deal with it, you cope with it, and then you move on. And for most of us, we've got adequate coping skills, and that allows us to do that. And then, we've got that resilience behind us, and we move forward. The second kind of stress that really is a little bit, more serious, if you will, is what we call chronic stress. And, one of the examples I can use from my own personal life is I have an adult son with multiple disabilities, including autism, and there's a chronicity of stress for me, and has been, and he just celebrated his 30th birthday, because supporting him, along with my spouse and caregiver is chronic stress for me, but I've learned to adapt and learn to, again, build the resilience. The third kind of stress, and this is where we all sit today here, not just in our communities, but in our United States and in our world, is what we call complex stress. And complex stress is really when, in essence, a critical incident occurs, i.e. a pandemic, and then the stressors just build up and build up and build up. And like some of our other speakers talked about earlier today, is we end up putting ourselves last. And so we end up not caring for ourselves physically, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, because we're just trying to get through the day. But unfortunately, with complex stress, because remember, it is chronic and it moves forward with us, but it is multi-layered. That kind of complex stress is really what we're seeing here particularly here in the United States now. Higher rates of depression, higher rates of anxiety. We're seeing greater rates of suicide. We're seeing higher rates of abuse, neglect, etc. And so what the complex stress really, what we can do is, in a sense, house that in terms of where are we ourselves right now, and then how are we dealing with it? How are we coping with it? Are we coping with it? Are we ignoring it? And again, as women leaders, moms, household leaders, employee leaders, etc., we tend to put ourselves last. We tend to say, okay, I'll take care of everybody else. I work in healthcare. I've been here at Orlando Health for 5 years and working with physicians and working in particular with female physicians. there really is a propensity to sort of say, well, if there's enough time at the end of the day or the week or the month, I'll worry about me. And what happens is that all sorts of parts of your life get to be affected, meaning your psychological well-being, what you eat, what you put in your mouth, the nutrition gets impacted, et cetera, et cetera. So what I like to do is to talk to individuals more about sort of what I call the 4 C's of resiliency. And what resiliency really comes down to, my definition that I like, there's really 2 definitions. The one I like the best is what we call the ability to bounce back. When I was raising my children, and I have 2 other children besides my son that happens to have the disabilities, I was needing to teach my other 2 children how to bounce back from maybe something that their brother did. And so I would use the example of Tigger in Winnie the Pooh. And if any of you know that character, it really is about, he does bounce on his tail, but he also keeps going, right? But he takes things in and asks questions, and then he moves forward. So really what resilience, if you will, is that ability to bounce back, is to come back from a stressor. The ability to really positively adapt, if you will, and respond to an potentially adverse outcome. So the 4 C's that I like to stress, and they're easy to remember, and this is what I want your takeaway to be today, is self-care and building resilience is really about caring for self. And again, some of this has already been talked about with some of our other speakers, but it's caring for yourself. It is connection. And again, I know 2 of the other speakers spoke about that. It's compassion, but it's self-compassion. And the last one is courage. So quickly, and I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on self-care because we've had some great examples today, but self-care is, as you know, is sleeping, nutrition, hydration, that kind of thing, exercise, movement. What I like to encourage people to do is, particularly in healthcare, because it's oftentimes 12-hour shifts, don't take breaks, don't get to the cafeteria, I like to recommend build in what we call recovery periods. And that can be as simple as a mindful moment. It can be as simple as a 2-minute step away from whatever you're doing. You know what? Drink 8 ounces or 6 ounces of water or some nutrition, and then keep going. Also, that recovery period is an opportunity for you to physically, emotionally, psychologically, in a sense, gain back where you are at the current time, be present, and then move forward. I call it sort of your energy moment, if you will. The other thing I recommend in terms of the caring for yourself, and again, these are quick and easy things that you can do, is visualization. If you know that you're going to head into something that might be stressful, okay, you may be at a point where you're going to go in and talk to your employees about something that's difficult, or you're going to have a conversation maybe with a relative or friend that's going to be challenging. Or you just have to be able to maneuver yourself, through the grocery store, and that's going to be stressful because you might go down the wrong aisle, with your mask on and not social distance. And so visualization is just an easy tool prior to the event. Spend a few minutes in your mind, walk yourself through what it's going to look like, what it's going to feel like, what it's going to smell like, what is your body going to react to, how's it going to work through and walk through that particular experience. It's a way to try and manage the stress as you get to the actual event. So the visualization is a mind-based exercise that is real easy to do. Again, even if you maybe used it once or twice a week, it's a mindful-based exercise in that you're trying to reduce the stressor before you actually get into the stressor. Second C I want to talk about is connection, and that's already been talked about and mentioned by some of the other speakers as well. Connection for us now in the world of COVID, we're calling it social distancing. It's really physical distancing. What I encourage all of us to think about is we may be physically distant and need to stay physically distant, but how do we stay emotionally, socially, psychologically connected? Okay. Remember I talked about that complex stress, right? And complex stress, when the human body is stressed, we tend to pull away, right? I refer to it sometimes as turtling. We tend to pull into ourselves. So we tend to psychologically, emotionally, etc., pull away. So at a time where we have to physically stay away, I recommend that you intentionally look for ways to make connections, you know, around you. What does that look like? My biggest recommendation to leaders, for instance, here at Orlando Health is spend time with builders. Find those people, identify those individuals in your world that are builders. And those are those individuals, and you know who they are. They're the positive talkers. You have a positive feeling, an energy feeling when they leave you, right? You feel an attraction to them because you feel better or good, even joy when you spend time with them. Versus those individuals that maybe pull us down, kind of have that negative notion, if you will. And so in your connectedness, use the builders in your life and be a builder yourself, because again, that is going to enhance your resiliency and it's going to reduce your stress. And then look for opportunities and stay engaged. It's going to take energy and it's going to create. We don't have the same options to have those physical connections, those social connections. And so what does that look like? You know, is that where I go ahead and maybe reach back out to someone I haven't talked to in a long time? Do FaceTime. Seeing a human face is more powerful in terms of our own well-being than maybe even talking on the phone. Third one I want to talk about real quick in terms of building resiliency is compassion, self-compassion. Again, I'm in healthcare. A lot of you in what you do every day as entrepreneurs, as business owners, right? You have to think about how are you interfacing with your teams? How do you interact with them? And so a part of that is trust, respect, compassion, etc. It's feeling a sense of humbleness and humanity towards them. So again, what happens is we leave ourselves out of that equation and we don't think about being compassionate to ourselves. So quick, easy things to do, and again, some of the other speakers spoke about this. Self-compassion can be in the form of reflection, prayer, mindful moments. It can be in, practicing mindful moments. I love meditation. One of the earlier speakers spoke about that. Journaling, all of those kinds of simple, but really it pulls yourself into you, and it's spending time with you and pushing out all of those other things. It can be 10 minutes. One of my favorites that the previous speaker talked about is the practice of gratitude. I call it gratitude notation, meaning write it down, think about it, send yourself a text, whatever it is. But gratitude is one of those amazing experiences as human beings that we then can feel lessen stress, and it builds resilience for all of us. Courage is the last of the 4 C's. And courage is really about, and again, the other speakers spoke about this, the courage to be imperfect. And I think that is just so key. As women leaders, again, whether you're a physician, an entrepreneur, I have the good fortune of working here at Orlando Health with a lot of female leaders, physician leaders, administrative leaders. And I have to tell you what, that notion of perfection shows up everywhere. And as one of the other speakers spoke about, there's no such thing. And yet we are driven to perfection to the point that we ignore ourselves. So I encourage people really aim for imperfect, be imperfect. That drive for perfection can only increase our stress. The imperfection is that, and Brene Brown, many of you probably know, is an author, sociologist, written quite a few books lately, has done some TED Talks. She talks about the vulnerability and being vulnerable with others, but also with ourselves. Vulnerability requires us to be imperfect human beings. So that would be my 4th C. So let me finish real quick with trying to wrap around this notion of resilience and the ability to be adaptable. And so the ability to be positively adaptable is really important in terms of what resilience is and how you build it. So lastly, think about it this way. we are working through COVID-19. We are working through the challenges in our lives. We don't get over things. And oftentimes when I was in my clinical practice, there was a lot of anticipation of, I want to hurry up and get this over with, whether it be psychological, emotional, or physical, right? Or spiritual. And, what I like to suggest to individuals is, the power of being present and working through a feeling, a thought, an experience, you don't miss out on the potential. And it might be painful. It might be painful that something, that you're choosing to be engaged in. But the action of doing that builds adaptability. It builds mindful adaptability. And then lastly, want to touch a little bit, just one idea about your own gifts, the gifts that you have within yourself. And if you've not done this exercise before, take a few minutes and say, okay, what are my gifts and talents? What have I been given, special to me that I can then take and expand, all right? And the reason that I'm going to end with this is that it's not an activity that a lot of us do, because again, we spend a lot of time caring for everyone else. But when we look inward and we ask, what are my gifts and talents? And I encourage you to write them down, and if you spend a lot of time, you're going to come up with more than 10, maybe aim for 10. And with those gifts and talents, ask yourself the question, I'm right now sitting in a world of complex stress. I'm sitting in a world of a lot of psychological distress, but I have gifts and talents that I myself can further expand. And again, this wraps in that notion of gratitude. It wraps in that notion of connectedness, self-compassion, all right? Courage to be imperfect. And so if you pick something on your list or put something on your list and you say, well, you know what, I'm not perfect. That's not a great trait, but it's one of my traits. Then what you want to do with that is take a few of those and just expand on them and determine how am I going to be able to expand on this and where in my world can I expand on it? And then what that will allow you to do ultimately is answer the question, what is my purpose, right? And how do I remain purpose driven? And again, I think it ties back to what some of the other speakers had mentioned, but particularly psychologically, when we have purpose in our lives, all right, it really does help us manage that stress, and it helps us to build the resiliency. So I encourage you really to just spend a few minutes with self and, write that list, come up with those, those thoughts, traits, those gifts, and then look to see in an adaptable way, how can I really expand these gifts to impact, obviously, others, because that's your default, but also how can I actually impact myself? So I want to leave it at that. Thank you so much. And please enjoy the rest of the weekend and be kind to yourself.
Thank you so much. I am going to add my 4 C's to my vision board because I love that, and writing down my gifts and talents. That's the first time I've ever heard that, and you never think about doing that for yourself and acknowledging what you do have, your gifts and talents. So thank you for that. I'm gonna get on that one. So next, we will have Dr. Dustin. Dr. Dustin, MD, MBA, is a general cardiologist specializing in cardiovascular disease with Orlando Health Institute of Cardiology Group. He has extensive training in cardiovascular disease and provides patients the latest diagnostic and therapeutic treatments. Dr. Hill earned his medical degree from American University of Integrative Science in St. Martin, Netherlands, Antilles, and undergraduate degree from the University of Florida in Gainesville, prior to a master's degree in business administration with a focus in healthcare administration. Dr. Hill completed a residency in internal medicine and fellowship in cardiovascular medicine at Orlando Health. His background also includes clinical research and publication in peer-reviewed journals. His services include arrhythmia clinic, cardiovascular thoracic surgery, cardio-oncology, cardiovascular rehabilitation, chest pain center, Coumadin clinic, diagnostic cardiology, electrophysiology, heart failure center, heart valve center, interventional cardiology, peripheral vascular, pulmonary hypertension, research, structural heart program, and vein clinic. Please help me welcome Dr. Hill to discuss cardiovascular care in women, bridging the gap. Welcome, Dr. Hill.
Thank you so much for that introduction. That was long. I feel very distinguished after that, so I have a lot to live up to here. Can you hear me all right just before I get started? Okay, I'm gonna try to share this.
We can't see you, but we can hear you.
Yeah, I'm gonna share a screen, so that's why I'm not on video here. So let me try to do that. Give me 1 second, sorry. Okay, are you seeing this now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so I'm more so going to take an aim at kind of cardiovascular care in women today, and bridging the gap. I thought was an appropriate title. Just there's a number of disparities between men and women in regards to cardiovascular care. I just wanted to bring up some of those, kind of create some awareness, focus on some of the action that you guys can take as business owners and entrepreneurs and really leaders in the community, and then to really kind of create a plan to advocate for your own health and for those around you. So I'll get started here. And it's really just going to be 5 kind of areas that we'll touch on. Like I said, the first part is going to be creating some of that awareness. So cardiovascular disease is the #1 cause of death in American women. So one of the myths is that heart disease mainly affects men. So we know that from, a ton of trials and a ton of data that this is not the case. The fact is that each year heart disease kills more women than men. 1 out of every 4 women die from cardiovascular disease. 2 out of every 3 US women have 1 or more cardiovascular risk factor that is frequently unknown to them, and often not a focus of any treatment or primary prevention. And then 38% of women die within 1 year of suffering a heart attack. Sorry, thought I lost. Are you still there? Okay.
Yes, we're here.
Okay, sorry, thought I lost you guys. So 38% of women actually die within 1 year of suffering a heart attack, compared with 25% of men. Again, kind of one of the disparities that I'll point out and reiterate throughout this presentation. So heart disease affects women in every age group. This is a comparison. This looked at, the estimated prevalence of cardiovascular disease by age and gender over about a 15-year period. And really what it looked at, you can see men are represented here in the red, and then females with the white boxes here. It is true that, men are affected at younger ages, but as you can see, as you get into the 5th and 6th percentile of life, you pretty much have equal distribution among males and females starting at age 65, and that becomes much more prevalent in females at ages 75 and older. So one of the reasons for a lot of the disparities in care is that women do not perceive heart disease as their major health threat. And you know, the National Institute of Health actually did a study that looked at this perception of the greatest health risk to females. And this is going back to 2000, 2003, but if you can see, this is kind of the biggest gap here. 62% of women thought that cancer was their greatest health risk, as compared to 8% with heart disease. And that was knowing that heart disease is the leading cause of death among women. You know, that's just a huge misconception among women, as far as knowing exactly, you know, where some of their risk factors could lie in preventing some of these diseases from taking place, such as heart attack and stroke. So awareness of the leading cause of death for women, only about 34% of women actually knew of this whenever they did these studies. So really just a huge gap in the idea of understanding what one of the leading cause of death for women would be, and how to prevent some of those things. And here we go. This just focuses on looking at some of the causes of death in women in general. And you can see that 41% are kind of grouped into this cardiovascular disease, 22% in cancer. So almost double the number of deaths from heart disease as opposed to cancer. And then about a third of those is just a combination of a number of other causes of death. But again, just pointing out the important fact that cardiovascular disease accounts for a huge proportion of deaths in women each year. This is a number of the national campaigns which help to bring awareness to some of these statistics. One of my favorites, the Heart Truth, or the red dress pin. This is a symbol for women and heart disease awareness. I know this is there's actually a special day for this. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but these are all a number of the campaigns that have done some degree of raising awareness, but have not been as effective as they were hoping. So this is still a big area that we have for improvement. So the second point I want to make, so research in women and heart disease. So this really just identifies the reason that we have some of these gaps. And one of them is that historically women have been underrepresented in clinical trials related to heart disease. So this one's kind of on us as clinicians and researchers. There is little knowledge regarding the effects of commonly used cardiovascular drugs in women, which is kind of a scary thought. And the reason that is a lot of times are based on research in middle-aged men that may not apply to older women. And really, this is all rooted in the fact that the enrollment of women in cardiovascular disease trials is very low. In 1993, they kind of made an attempt to increase this. They wanted to get it to a 50-50 split so that you had half women and half men, and all of these trials focused on cardiovascular disease, and really all trials in general. But still, our rate for females is somewhere around 30 to 40% still. Federal efforts have been only moderately successful in this attempt. And even when women are included in trials, rarely are those results broken out. And we know that this is a problem. Women and men are different. You know, as much as we are the same, we are different in a number of areas, which is fine, and it's perfectly okay. It's just we have to realize those facts and treat each individual appropriately. So this is probably one of the bigger figures that I think reiterated this. So this is a representation of women in studies of CAD testing. So this is points out some of our common diagnostic modalities for cardiovascular disease. So the EKG, echocardiogram, and then stress testing. And you can see that women only accounted for 28% in the highest prevalence of these studies. So really, we are just not doing a great job of incorporating women in equal numbers so that we get a good representation of how these methods as well as treatments affect them. Okay, so kind of created some of the awareness. Now I'm going to kind of shift course in our third point here, so which is that women experience heart disease differently than men. And this has been a known fact, and I think it's kind of overlooked in a sense. I mean, it still happens today. I see it all the time. But the important thing is that women are more likely to die with 1 year of heart attack. We've talked about this. Women are less likely to survive any intensive therapy with surgery or stenting. And then women are more likely to have life-threatening arrhythmias, such as irregular heartbeats. A lot of these differences we know from the development of studies and trials over the last 20 years is that the differences are partially due to hormones. A woman's heart is smaller size and the advanced age at diagnosis. And I think probably the most important is this, that heart attack warning signs. So traditional presentation of a heart attack, as everyone knows, you get this pressure, chest pain, left side of your chest, discomfort, and possibly the arm or the shoulder, shortness of breath, fatigue. You know, that's what we've all been taught from a very young age to look out for. Oh, someone grabs their chest, they're having a heart attack. Well, women make it a little more complicated. So the presentation of women can frequently be very vague and non-specific. And we call it usually an atypical presentation. So this could involve pain in the upper back, jaw, or neck, flu-like symptoms, nausea, fatigue, feelings of anxiety, or even just generalized discomfort. And we see this all the time. People come in and they get overlooked in the emergency department because they don't have chest pain. You know, we come and see them, and then, you know, an hour later, they're getting a stent in their heart, and we've delayed care for hours or even days sometimes, which is frequently very discouraging and very concerning, you know, for a physician as well as for the patient. And the severity of heart disease in women, I think that delay in care and those symptoms and signs that become overlooked are very apparent in this presentation. So deaths within 1 year of their first MI, you can see is almost 13% higher in women, frequently due to those delayed onset of care, such as getting a heart catheterization, getting a cardiac diagnostic workup, or even getting triaged to higher levels of care. Sudden deaths with no previous symptoms. Again, this goes to the fact that we may be overlooking some of these signs and symptoms in females, or the fact that maybe the females aren't looking for those signs and symptoms themselves just because they're not aware of what could be a heart attack or could potentially be a life-threatening situation for them. And then the last point I want to make on this slide is within 6 years of recognized MI, a percent who will be completely disabled with heart failure. So almost 50% of females, again, going to the facts I've talked about, those the delayed onset of care and treatment frequently leave these people with chronic, long-term disabled conditions such as heart failure. So we know all this, and 61 million Americans with cardiovascular disease. It's almost a 50-50 split between women and men. Yet men are being treated more aggressively. So this kind of points out a lot of the areas that we treat in the cardiovascular realm. So heart stents, bypass surgery, pacemakers, heart failure therapies. You can see kind of men represented in the dark purple here, and you can see that those numbers are much higher than men, not because their disease is more complex, not because of any reason that we can point to other than that they're just being treated more aggressively for no obvious reason. So again, kind of the physician and the healthcare team dropping the ball in that sense, but definitely areas for improvement. So just to kind of recap, I've kind of focused on some of the awareness of the disparities, some of the action that we could be missing. And then, so just let me kind of recap that. So data used for the care of women derived from studies conducted in middle-aged men, we know that. The initial efforts for prevention are focused more on men than women. Women and doctors often attribute this chest pain to non-cardiac causes, which is part of our presentation dilemma. Women tend to have heart attacks later in life than men. Women present more often with atypical symptoms that do not fit the perfect mold of having chest pain and a heart attack. and then some diagnostic tests and procedures may not be as accurate or may be delayed in women. So with that being said, I want to focus on some of the more action points that women and leaders in the community can take in order to take control of their own health, as well as to prevent one of these events from happening. So this is just a quick diagram showing, you know, a lot of heart disease is genetic. So I think some of this is kind of a ticking clock from the day you're born. But there are a number of things we can do to prevent that or decrease the risk of these or the likelihood of these events happening. So we know that bad cholesterol builds up in the blood vessels. It kind of becomes stored here. It develops these plaques that eventually will rupture and cause a heart attack. This is the same process that develops in the small vessels in the brain that lead to stroke as well. So really a lot of our process is focused on preventing this process from happening. So how do we do that? How do we take action in this sense? So I've used this diagram to point out a number of the primary prevention areas which we focus on when patients come into the office in order to make sure you're reducing your risk as much as possible to prevent one of these life-threatening events from happening. So that involves cholesterol, high blood pressure, physical activity, aspirin use, diabetes, diet, and tobacco use. So I'm going to focus on some of these and point out some of the key areas, and then how we all can do a better job at treating those and preventing any life-altering events from happening. So unhealthy cholesterol levels, women age 20 and older with blood cholesterol levels of 200 milligrams or 200 milligrams per deciliter or higher. So about 50% of females age 20 years in age and higher have high cholesterol. And I just pointed out from our diagram on how heart attacks happen that those cholesterol deposits in the blood vessels will actually lead or create the building blocks for these plaques to develop and eventual heart attacks. So very important point, we have phenomenal medications at treating and reducing these levels that can prevent those plaques from developing and growing and really rupturing and causing these events from happening. High blood pressure, which is the silent killer, which I think more women overlook than men, just in my experience, but women age 20 years and older have high blood pressure. 30% white females, 45% Black or African American females. So really about a third of females in general who have high blood pressure and don't even realize it. And the reason this makes a big difference, especially for the heart and for stroke, the higher blood pressure forces the heart to work harder, which it ends up in a sense putting more stress on those vessels, and these vessels become hard and rigid over time, which really creates injury to those vessels and just exposes them for future events such as a heart attack or a dissection or other things that can lead to sudden cardiac death. Tobacco abuse, this one is commonly known, and you don't have to be a doctor to know this. Smoking is the single most preventable cause of death in the US. If you smoke, please stop. 21% of American women age 18 and older smoke. That's 22.6 million women. Just some quick points on this: 2 to 3-fold higher risk of death from ischemic heart disease than never smokers, and a 2-fold risk of death from stroke from current smokers. So you're increasing your risk dramatically by smoking. It leads to a catastrophic number of health-related events. And if you are smoking, please stop. And if you are not, please never start. Obesity and overweight. So again, another problem that, you know, as Americans, we have pretty much an epidemic of obesity. So over 50% of white females, and then almost 3/4 of Black and Mexican American females are overweight. So physical activity, this is one where I'm going to spend a little bit more time. So we can see anywhere from 30 to 60% of females have an inactive or even sedentary lifestyle. This is so important, and that this is a pretty complicated slide, but I will tell you this is a number of studies that looked at over 100,000 patients. And what we saw is that this magic number of 150 minutes per week of moderate physical activity led to a 14% reduction in cardiovascular events or stroke over a yearly time period. And this is just a dramatic reduction in the number of events that could change your life forever. And I know that sounds like a lot, but the good thing is that no matter what level of exercise you do, you got some benefit from that. So whether it's 5 minutes a day, whether it's 10 minutes a day, that adds up to, you know, time over a week, over a month, over a year. And if you're adding 5 or 6% reduction to your risk of cardiovascular death, I think it's kind of worth it in the long run. But really what is recommended is 150 minutes per week, and that gives you kind of the biggest bang for your buck as far as risk reduction goes in heart disease and stroke. So physical activity, 30 minutes or more of activity a day. Not only does it help with weight loss, but it reduces blood cholesterol levels, diabetes, and obesity, and helping to lower your blood pressure as well. Diabetes, another very complicated topic that I'm going to summarize in one slide, but American females with physician-diagnosed diabetes is just over 5%, and total number is higher than that because frequently a lot of women are underdiagnosed with diabetes. But this creates just a different level of complexity as far as heart disease goes. We know that diabetic patients have more adverse outcomes as far as heart disease and stroke goes. Diabetic patients do much worse in the long run, especially when their blood sugars are not well controlled. However, just in the last 2 to 3 years, we've had really kind of development of several new key drugs of the treatment of diabetes and heart disease that have shown great promise and risk reduction as far as 30% to mortality. So these are huge jumps and leaps and bounds in the area of diabetes and heart health. So why women don't take action against heart disease? There's a number of reasons. They don't put their health as a top priority. They think they're not old enough to be at risk. They feel too busy to make changes in their lives, or they're already feeling stressed. They don't have the familial and social support. So a lot of areas, it's a very complex issue in itself, but there are areas where you can take action to lower the risk of heart disease, and you can kind of spread this message of awareness as well. So kind of some of my take-home points: know your risk factors, please stop smoking, use exercise regularly, no matter how little it may be, whether it's 1 minute or 100. Every little bit helps in this area, and we know this from studies on thousands and thousands of people. And then know the warning signs for heart attack and stroke. I know I've kind of gone over those ad nauseum in this short presentation, but it's very important for females to kind of know these signs and symptoms because they are very different from the message that we've been given since we were young children growing up, clutching the left side of your chest and falling over. So women can save lives. If you or someone you know has risk factors for heart disease, adopt a heart-healthy lifestyle and discuss a plan of care with your physician. I think this is so important, this shared decision-making process. You just do it as a team. You know, it's very important to be on the same page and have the same goals and expectations as far as what you're doing when you meet with your physician and creating a healthy lifestyle. If you experience symptoms of heart attack or stroke, call 911 immediately, and then learn CPR. This is very easy, very helpful, and it can save lives. We've seen it, makes a big difference. So that being said, I've kind of attached some resources for women. These talk about a lot of the campaigns for awareness, treatment, and things you can do to help in this area. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hill. We really appreciate that. And it is, you know, as many times as I've actually heard, you know, the women it's a little different, our symptoms. It's so good to remind ourselves of that because it is so embedded into our minds at such a young age, you know, the clenching of the heart. So thank you for the reminder. So we're going to get right on to the next speaker. Dr. Jacqueline Darna is the CEO and medical inventor of No More Nausea, No More Migraine, and No More Sleepless Nights. The first and only natural way to stop nausea, vomiting, and headaches instantly for adults, kids, and pets. Her stylish, waterproof, and comfortable patent-pending essential oil infused acupuncture wristband combines fast-acting aromatherapy and long-lasting relief that helps with morning sickness, motion sickness, migraines, and much more in 30 seconds. If you've got your kit, you have one of the NAWBOs, so now you get to try it. Welcome, Dr. Darna, lives at #EntrepreneurLife and is joining us this morning to share a bit of her story. Welcome, Dr. Darna. Hi.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. And thank you, Kate, for that wonderful introduction. I want to talk about #EntrepreneurLife. And actually, I'm going to use it in a term of we. So wellness and entrepreneurship. And notice that the W in the we comes first and foremost. Because again, you have to have your wellness in order to keep your entire company and, let's be real, your entire life going. Hi, my name is Dr. Jacqueline Darna. I'm the CEO and medical inventor of NOWBO Nausea, NOWBO Migraine, NOWBO Sleepless Nights, the first 3-in-1 essential oil infused acupressure wristband. Believe it or not, this little wristband can actually help to stop upset stomach, to stop headaches or migraines, and even sleep problems in just seconds. Don't believe me? We're found in 30,000 retailers, including like CVS, Walmart, Bed Bath & Beyond, Bye Bye Baby, and are used in hospitals across 14 different countries of the world. And just in our US based, over 1,000 different hospitals believe and truly understand that wellness is important. So let's get into it. And we're actually going to talk about wellness and entrepreneurship as a souped up car. So what better place than inside of my car? So the actual engine itself and is the brain, right? And your brain, you need to have stress relief. You need sleep. So let's just kind of talk about how the engine is part of the brain and the entire operation that really runs a company. So as a CEO, I really have that motivation as a chief everything officer. If you did ask my finance team, they would say the chief expenditure officer. But again, that's not, we're not up for discussion for that instance. But you have to understand that the brain is what is in control. That engine is in control of the entire car. Now, that engine doesn't keep running all day, every day, anything like that. Instead, believe it or not, you need to have a shutoff valve. So let's start talking about women. 70% of women don't sleep well at night. Hence my invention of NOWBO Sleepless Nights and NOWBO Sleepless Nights Kids. Because if you're anything like me, stuck in front of my son's football game, you'll understand that being a woman and entrepreneur, there's nothing like work-life balance. And I can't sit here and tell you that I have a recipe for it, but I can tell you that in my brain, in my engine of that car, what I try to do is fuel it the best way that I can to really move it forward. And I found that sometimes hitting a kill switch will help you to get out of like whatever dip or period that you might be in. I think we're all in this together. And by all in this together, I mean COVID-19. So everyone kind of took a complete and utter slump, whether or not it was that your business drove even faster, right? And you just didn't have enough attitude or be able to keep up, or whether it was that your health and wellness were put into check because you're no longer outside of your house. You are no longer inside of your office. So I really want to make sure that you have a girl gang, right? Have a mompreneur, have a group of people, and that's your spark plugs. Because in order to tune your car, you need all of these different aspects in order to work. So those jumper cables are who that I believe are the best form of stress relief, whether that's a best friend, whether that's your parents, whether that is just other entrepreneurs in general. Believe it or not, the outside world takes a toll and a factor on the inside of your business. So as an entrepreneur, and what does the word or phrase entrepreneur really mean? It means to push forward, to move past all expectations, and to not be held or held back by a company, by a product that you might sell, like NOWBO Nausea, and to be able to think forward moving and forward thinking. And that's really what that engine of a car is actually doing. So you have to remember that an entrepreneur's life is not for everyone. Some people are just incredible at fulfilling tasks and doing exactly what they want. But if you're constantly thinking to yourself, how can I move? How can I push? What can I do better? then that's what I'm here to tell you. So now that we know that the engine, your brain, communicates with the rest of your body, the entire car, you need to have that kill switch. You need to have a separate side of you that says, I'm going to get a certain number of hours of sleep. And what sleep does, the promotion of sleep actually helps to increase your creativity. So it has been clinically proven that sleep helps with a lot of other ways to be able to decrease anxiety, depression. And so how do you do that? Well, I'll tell you my little secret. It's a little notepad. I keep it on the side of my bed. And when I wake up and when I have a dream that is an amazing idea or something that I want to try, because I think about entrepreneurship 24/7. I never turn it off, okay? But again, I write it down, I put that down, and I automatically go back to sleep. Because if not, your brain will still be on. And what do we need to do? Kill switch that actual brain power, kill switch that engine. Now, let's give it some gas. Let's give it a little bit of a punch. So that is your short term. So your daily, you fill up your car, maybe not every day, but every other day. So you really need to start thinking of, what do I do to fuel my body? Because you are the most important asset in your life. And if you've ever been on an airplane, what do they say? If you have your little oxygen mask, please put your oxygen mask on before you help other children or people beside you. And the reason why is because if you have no oxygen, you're the only one that is able to save everyone else. And that's the same thing that you have to think about in your company, that the gas, the nutrients that you fill yourself on a daily basis. Again, and I'm not trying to bring this up in a religious sense, but I have this motivation that comes within that I read the Bible, a short 5-minute passage, usually every morning. And the second that I do that, it helps me to laser focus in on how I'm going to be a better person, a better boss, a better other entity for my employees. And how can I really fuel that fire? So the fuel mission is behind me, and it's that morning routine. What can you do for better health and wellness? Your mission, your brain power associated with, why did you start a company in the first place? What's behind it? Now, I can tell you my why. My mission is simple: better health and wellness naturally. And from that small entity or mission grew an entire company that's larger than what I could have ever imagined. And what's more important is for you to find your mission, fuel your passion, fuel your desire, and give yourself good food. I know that everybody talks about it, but where do you think we get our nutrients for? As a naturopathic physician and in the pharmacological standpoint, where do we get all of our drugs? We get them from the ground, the earth, different entities that we find. 1 out of every 4 drugs we actually get from the Amazon jungle. So it's out there. So that is something just to be able to fuel you and give you good nutrients, right? Everybody says, like Popeye, eat your, spinach and eat your veggies and things of that nature. But that helps you. It keeps you upright with your nutrients. It helps you to really fuel an everyday basis. Now, we're going to go to the oil, okay? You probably didn't think we're going to talk about lubrication in this session, but we are, because the oil can either get gunky, and it's that long-term effect, right? You got to keep yourself a well-oiled machine. And in being a well-oiled machine, you need to envision where you are from an entrepreneurial standpoint right now, where you're going to be in a year, where you're going to be in 5 years, and even better, where you're going to be in 15, 30 years, something of that nature, to be able to understand and feel where your passion is taking you. So I call the oil of the company that long-term, the bigger picture effect. And I started, here's my hint, I started with, what do I know best? I know medicine. So I had 11 clinical trials proving that my products were effective in helping others in a natural way. Once I gave that to other medical distributors, they put me into hospitals, into 14 different countries of the world. So I had more time to focus on retail, to focus in on my passion in the .com, so that I can market to you, each and one of you amazing women, right? And not market at you, meaning smack you in the face with a whole bunch of ads that don't do anything for you and don't tell you who you are and how to better yourself on an everyday basis. So it's really important to find your company's lube, to figure out if you're not changing your oil, then you're doing something wrong, because entrepreneurship is a daily, ever-changing environment. Now, my favorite one, and you'll definitely know that I'm an 80s baby, right? It's the body and style of the car. And I have to quote Biggie Smalls. If you don't know who it is, it's okay. You don't need to look them up. But he's a rapper, and it says, in the wise words of Biggie, he says, to all the ladies in the place with style and grace, allow me to race. Okay, so style and grace, that's the outward expression of who you are as an entrepreneur. I tell people, I pitch to them if they have a pulse. You will constantly see me branded, right, in different settings. You will also be able to understand, what's that style? How do I get to people? What is that shift that I'm able to take place into their minds? Not about how it can help me, because I'm a vertigo sufferer. So why do I use NAWBO nausea? Because so that I don't get very sick whenever I get dizzy. Instead, I'm telling you, how can we as NAWBO bands help you? And even more importantly, you got to be able to shift quick, right? So if you're in a race, it's not always about the fastest car. It's about who can quickly change to the ever-going environment. And that quick change is what I've been talking about. During this COVID period of time, Latina women like myself are opening companies 6 times faster than any other subsect. 6 times. So that means that we are able to take on the monstrous companies. I have friends that are taking on big, huge people like Cool Whip, others that are in the pacifier industry, myself for medication. And do you know why we're able to excel? Because we can change on a dime, right? It's that drift racing that we talk about from these actual car races. And sometimes it's just a better driver from mind, engine, body, oil, gas, and how stylish we can be, because we can keep up with the times. My competitor in the field was actually invented the year that I was born. So it's almost 40 years old. So I will tell you that I was able to make it fresh, make it waterproof, make it stylish, make it something that's a statement that people want to wear. Pregnant women are proud, right? And this will actually help you to stop getting sick on an everyday basis. I want to also challenge you one more time. Whenever you're racing someone, note that Sun Tzu in this book called The Art of War says, if you know yourself better than you know your competitor, you will only win 50% of the time. But if you know your competitor better than you know yourself, you will always win 100% of the time. So you need to stop looking at what you're doing, and you need to focus in on what they are doing, so as to how you can bring yourself up and elevate it. So I am changing the way that we practice medicine all over the world and bringing safe and natural NOWBO remedies to people all across the world. Whether it's that you're buying it from CVS, Buy Baby for a pregnant friend, online at Amazon, or you've been thinking about this vacation you can't wait to take, go for it. Get on the water. And don't let anything stand in your way, because wellness of yourself and your company is the entrepreneurship that everyone needs. And don't forget that all of this is wonderful, that we can all be these like sexy, sleek racing cars. But the most important thing is to give back, because I wouldn't be standing here talking in front of you without the help of everyone else. So we have our Buy a Band, Give a Band during September, and then October, we donate a band for every band that is purchased to a chemotherapeutic patient. In September, it's for pediatrics, and in October, it's for breast cancer, because that hits very close to home to me personally. So don't just feel great about spending that health savings account money, you'll be helping other people too. Again, get those bags in. If you have one of the swag bags, you'll see some NOWBO nausea bands. If you ever need to go and take a look at who I am, NOWBOnausea.com. And you'll even get better rewarded if you give us a wonderful testimonial. Find out all about it, and you'll see inside of a whole bunch of our whole product lines. We'll give it to you for free if you kind of shout us out and tell us about it. Once again, I really do want to challenge you to find your wellness, find your we, find that entrepreneurship, find that drive. Again, my name is Dr. Jacqueline Darna with NOWBO Nausea, the only natural way to stop nausea now. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Dr. Darna. I really appreciate it. I was actually needing my No More Migraine this week, and so I'm gonna have to go online. And I love the buy a band and give a band, so I'll feel great, and I'll also be giving back. So thank you so much. I also wanted to say, great question, Demetria Sloan, and thank you so much, Dr. Hill, for jumping on and answering those questions, because that is very important. Next, I am going to introduce Dr. Bernal. Our physician from Orlando Health is Dr. Cynthia Bernal. Is a gynecologist and obstetrician with Orlando Health Physicians Associates, where her focus is minimally invasive procedures and robotic surgery. Her areas of interest include diagnostic, treatment, and prevention of disease and disorders that affect women, such as endometriosis, adnexal masses, uterine fibroids, postmenopausal symptoms, and high-risk obstetrics. Sorry, I'm getting a little tongue-tied. So join me in welcoming Dr. Cynthia Bernal to discuss the annual GYN exam. It is really needed every year when you do start. Go ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for that wonderful introduction as well. I feel like this morning has just been a completely great opportunity to just witness amazing women with great talks and just be part of everything and just being exposed. My name is Dr. Cynthia Bernal. I am a gynecologist with Orlando Health, and I focus on providing information for women. And we're going to start with, might seem a broad topic about why the GYN exam. So the GYN exam first is very important, and we should start it on a yearly basis. Why? Unfortunately, many women hear the misconception that the GYN exam is only important when it comes to your PAP. A PAP, we know, is very an important screening tool that we use for cervical cancer. However, every single year, within a year span, there are many things that can continue to go wrong within our body, whether it is hormonally, physically, and different issues that need to be addressed. Sometimes as providers, as physicians, we don't give clear information to our patients, because some women have come in, and when they speak to my patients, they say, I thought an exam was needed every 3 years, every 5 years. And the reality is that cervical cancer screening, depending on your personal medical history, can be very different. So if you have a history of normal PAPs, it is true that perhaps you're not going to need one every single year. However, that does not mean that you should not visit your gynecologist every year, because a physical exam, a pelvic exam, is needed, because we just don't do it for the PAP alone. We do it to go over and make sure, is your anatomy correct? Can we have a conversation about whether your periods are normal? Are you having any issues? Your expectations. The number one thing with women is that we go a lot with what we hear culturally, at work, at friends, and sometimes we ignore our symptoms, or we put them through because we're busy at home with our kids, our life, our job, and we go through it. And when I'm speaking to these patients in a year span, a simple question can unlock these enormous amount of problems that women don't address, because we tend to put ourselves at the bottom of the list. The goal of an annual exam is to go over and have a thorough conversation about many different things. For example, also, one of the biggest things is, what is your exam? What is the expectation of that exam, depending on a woman's age? For a lot of moms out there, perhaps, or anybody with smaller children, I can see patients sometimes in my office as young as 11 or 10 or 12, and their exam, or their visit, is not going to be anything in regards to a physical exam, because these are little children that most of the time their issue is only to talk about, why is their body changing? Did they start their period? Are they having problems? Are they having issues at school because of bleeding or pain that we address? And of course, their parents are there, and it's just an open conversation. It's taking away the thought that a GYN exam is something scary, something uncomfortable, something that is going to be painful, when it doesn't have to be that way. Of course, as a woman starts going and getting older, we address different issues, like now you're getting into your pre-adolescent years, or your teen years, or now your fertile time, where we need to protect your fertility. Another very common misconception when it comes to the word birth control. We always hear it all the time. Why do we need it? Most patients will say, well, so that I do not get pregnant. And that is not necessarily the case. That is an added Bonus, if we need it, if we are looking to not get pregnant and we are sexually active, that is a good way of control. However, the main point of birth control is that how can it improve our daily life? Every month, most women will assume that it is okay to lose 3 or 4 days of the month, whether it is because you're having terrible pain that doesn't allow you to go to school, doesn't allow you to go to work, or to suffer through those days, to not be able to enjoy your pool or your exercise routine because those days are very difficult for you. Things like medication and forms of birth control can help you eliminate that obstacle so that we can go ahead and have a normal day, a normal month without any interruption of our daily activity. Birth control also is very important for fertility. Many women will say, I don't want to use birth control for a long period of time because I'm scared that might affect my fertility later on, when the actual reality is that it's the complete opposite. Many women now, as we know, we are pushing fertility later on in life, whether it's in our mid, late, early 40s, and we need to save our eggs. We know that we are born with only a certain amount of eggs, and every month that we are not on birth control, many women don't realize that the process of ovulation is that we're losing our eggs. Birth control helps us prevent ovulation, and hence, without you realizing it, you're conserving it. And that's a critical thing when I have patients and they'll say, well, why am I having a difficulty getting pregnant right now at 38 versus my friend who is 40 and got pregnant? And new research, which is very exciting, will come to play in the future that will show that without it knowing, because most women use birth control mainly to prevent pregnancy, but studies are continued that why are certain women that are getting later on in life having either more difficulty getting pregnant or is it easier? And of course, we know that unfortunately with age, that is also a critical factor for us and fertility, but there are certain little things that we can do to improve for us. And those are the things, as we go ahead and move along in a woman's life cycle, especially I think also in the menopausal range, that is a very big topic, but it comes down to making sure that as a woman, when you come in and you speak to your doctor, one, the most important thing is that you deserve to have a great relationship with your physician. Gynecology as it is very uncomfortable, could be painful, could be embarrassing. We need to be able to discuss freely, no taboo, completely comfortable, whether it's with a male physician or a female physician, depending on your preference. But when you come in and speak to your doctor, you have to be able to talk about everything. Every specialty is important, but maybe I'm biased because I'm a gynecologist, but I do believe that gynecology is the most important specialty for all women, and all women need to have a gynecologist. Even if you have a primary care physician who can help you collecting your PAP when the time is due, that's great. But there are other issues that you should be addressing with your doctor. When it comes to another important topic and misconceptions are, for example, if you are done having babies, do you need another exam? If you have had a hysterectomy, maybe you don't no longer need a gynecological exam. This is not true. Every year, at least, if you don't need your doctor for anything else, you have to have come in for a physical exam, because for us, as we get older, the chances of vulvar cancer, vaginal cancer, uterine, ovarian, all of those go up. Most of the time when it's in an unfortunate case that I find cervical cancer or anything else that tends to be ominous to a patient, most of the time it starts out with my patient saying, well, the last time I saw my doctor was 10, 15 years ago. And that is the biggest thing that I think as all physicians we're trying to move towards is women need to be comfortable coming in and seeing their physician. In the case of gynecology, we need a physical exam every year at least to have a conversation, to address any issue, to identify any future potential problem during an exam, instead of having it presented to us where it can be a bigger problem that could have been addressed and fixed at an earlier time. And just to close up, you know, with most patients here, I think it's one of the most important things and very exciting that I think for gynecologists, especially myself, and that we're moving forward, is to make women very comfortable and being able to not ignore their bodies and to know that we deserve, just like those great talks that we've had all day, we deserve to feel great. We deserve to have healthy, happy bodies. And part of that also needs to get addressed in the gynecological world, because we know we're going to have potential issues that need to be fixed. Don't be shy to speak to your doctor, to let them know what is going on, to let them know your plans for the future when it comes to fertility, so that we can better address them as we go ahead moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Manel. Yeah, annual wellness exams, very important, ladies. Make sure you're doing it. And I would like to hear that, you know, even later in life when you don't think, you know, you're not going to have kids and you kind of don't have to have those tests anymore. It's very important. So thank you so much, Dr. Manel, for being with us today. Next, today's program is brought to you obviously by the generous support of Orlando Health. I wanted to introduce Megan Almasi, the Community Relations Manager at Orlando Health. This program would not have happened without her. So we appreciate all of your support for our community. Thank you for working with our chapter on this event through the pandemic as we were identifying those key topics that Orlando Health wants us to know more about. Megan, we want to give you some time to share any info or updates you may have to share. Welcome, Megan.
Thank you. Thank you, and thank you all so much for having me here today. I first really want to give my appreciation to NAWBO for allowing us to be a part of the event today. I've learned so much personally, and I hope everyone on the call has as well. I think you'll see from some of the incredible physicians and leaders that we had today that we just have such a great team. And I know that's one of the important things as women business owners. You know, the team is really what makes it happen. So I'm excited to have been able to share some of our team with you all today, and hopefully you've been able to glean some insights from that. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick. Let me pop that up. Okay. So I just wanted to do a quick look back at Orlando Health. I'm not sure how many on the call might be familiar with the organization, but we've been around for quite a while now. So this is a picture of Orange General Hospital, which might be a building or a name that you all have not heard about, but about 102 years ago, so November of 1918, Orange General Hospital was founded. And this building that you're looking at right now was sitting on Orange Avenue, actually on the exact same site where Orlando Regional Medical Center sits today. So most people know Orlando Health because of ORMC. A lot of our nomenclature in the community just is around ORMC because it is our mainstay hospital. It's where our level 1 trauma center is. So it gets a lot of notoriety internationally as well. But Orlando Health really is so much more. So from that one building that sat on Orange Avenue all those years ago, today we are an organization with over 6.2 billion in assets and 13 wholly owned hospitals throughout Central Florida. Some of the newest ones that are coming online just earlier this summer was St. Cloud Hospital, and now Bayfront Health in St. Petersburg will soon be a part of the Orlando Health brand in officially on October 1st. So we've really grown quite a bit in those 102 years. Really remarkable, and I think it really lends itself to the team that's constantly been around. We all know how important that is. So with some of the information about Orlando Health, you can see from all of our facilities that we have here, multiple different specialties. You heard from a few of them today, but we have hundreds of physician offices throughout Central Florida covering 80 specialties and subspecialties. We also have a partnership with CareSpot Urgent Care to cover urgent care needs, as well as independent freestanding emergency rooms. So because of all that great power that we now have, it comes with great responsibility to our community. So we are proud to be recognized in several areas for all of our facilities, receiving national and international recognition for quality care as well as community investment. So just wanted to share a few of those, as well as, of course, a great place to work. And one of the things that I'm personally most proud of, part of my role with Orlando Health in community relations, is to be able to be that liaison between Orlando Health and the community, really finding the ways where we can collaborate with the initiatives that are happening in the area. Of course, NAWBO being one of those, so we're proud to be a new partner. But also finding as many other ways as we can to engage and be involved. So in our last fiscal year, 2019, we were able to contribute $760 million back to the community. And that includes everything from charity care to community building activities, other ways that we can really invest in the community. And I just wanted to share a few of the photos on this slide with some of the more exciting opportunities that we've been able to do with getting our team members out in the community, packing meals, visiting local nonprofits, starting school gardens at some of our most needed areas, doing community education, both with adults and with youth, really finding any way that we can to give back to the community. And while I'm on this slide too, I also wanted to address the question that did come up in the chat earlier about how Orlando Health really is addressing some of those systemic challenges among race and health in our community. And one of the things that's really exciting to be a part of a not-for-profit healthcare organization is that really our goal is to be able to serve the community. It's not focused on the revenue, but how can we best meet the health needs of those in our communities that we serve. So one of the things that we participate in alongside Advent Health, as well as the Florida Department of Health and a few other community health organizations, is called a community health needs assessment. And this is done every 2 years where we work with a third-party organization that really helps to go out and survey the community. And they're there to really identify what are those unmet needs in terms of health for those that are uninsured, underserved, vulnerable populations. And once we put together this very large report, we're then able to see, okay, this community really needs us to address these particular issues. So then we take a lot of these funds that fall within that $760 million from last year, and we're able to really divert them out into the community to provide those resources that they need. And a lot of them we do try to address specifically in those underserved communities. So please know that we are working on some of those, and we also love to hear feedback from the community. If you see some unmet needs where Orlando Health can help to serve, we do have on our website, if you were to search community health needs Orlando Health just in Google, it is going to take you to the page where you can find that full report if you're interested in looking at that, but also where you can submit any of your thoughts or concerns as well. We really want it to be a collaborative effort with our community. And in addition, something that of course has been on our mind outside of COVID for the last few months now really has been around that racial injustice and how do we address that in our communities. So one of the things that Orlando Health started just about a month ago, and this was really instructed by our senior leadership. So the president of our organization, David Strong, he is a part of a committee that they've started to really look at diversity and racial justice around health. And that's not only in our community and how do we best address those needs, but also looking internally as well. And how are we best serving our team members from diverse populations? How can we give them the opportunities to grow and succeed and make sure that they're an active and welcomed part of our culture and our community? So I hope to be able to share more about that as it moves along, but an exciting new initiative that's happening in Orlando Health. So then, of course, there's that day the world changed for all of us. I think we all have a moment that we can vividly remember back in March where for us, that was the moment when we said, wow, something is going on here and our world is going to be really different. And I know that you all have heard so much about COVID-19 over the last several months. And as you know, we've talked about our world can just get so overwhelmed with information sometimes, and we just need to filter that out. So I didn't want to spend too much time today really talking about COVID-19 because you all, I'm sure, feel like you have heard about it nonstop for the last several months. So what I thought would be more beneficial is really talking to you and sharing some of the resources about what Orlando Health has done to really get our community going again. Because we know that there are opportunities to continue our lives the way we had before, with some changes so that we can all stay safe and healthy, but continue our lives as fulfilling as possible. So some of those resources I wanted to share today is 3 different sites and resource hubs that Orlando Health has put together specifically for our community. So the first one that's really our largest initiative is called Business Ready. And that one you can find is orlandohealth.com/business ready. And each of these sites have a number of videos, downloadable resources, PowerPoint presentations, all these resources that you can find. So the Business Ready one really is geared more towards business owners so that they can feel ready to reopen, which I know many have already. But as they continue to reopen, provide a safe experience for their staff as well as their customers, this is going to be where they can find all of that information to get them going. We also offer advisory services by doing a health audit of your business if that's something you wanted one of our physicians to come in and help identify maybe some areas of concern for you and ways that you can address those. So that's one that I encourage everyone to check out. We also have for those who are just looking to get back out in the community and want to do so safe. They want to gather with a small group of friends. They want to make sure that they can still go do and explore all the things that they enjoyed doing back in maybe January or February that they don't feel as comfortable doing now. This provides some of those resources to help them do so in a safe manner. And then finally, with the start of school, we wanted to make sure that not only parents and students felt safe going back to school, but also that all educators also felt ready to return to the classroom. So that's when the School Ready site was created, which includes resources specifically for those populations. So I encourage you to go online, check them out, let us know if you have any questions or anything that we can help support you in being able to get back to as close to normal as we possibly can. And then just to close out, one of the things that I wanted to share that's been probably the biggest lessons learned through the last several months for us has been communication. So that's one of the things that right from the beginning, you know, when we realized that this was going to be something that would heavily impact our entire community, our entire world, Orlando Health was one of those organizations that really got out in front to say, we're going to communicate as openly and transparently as possible, not with just our community, but also internally with our team members. So I think that was one of the things that really made our team feel as comfortable as possible, knowing that we're going to be able to navigate this situation and address all the needs that might arise during this time. And I think it was Orlando Health put itself in a vulnerable position to be able to be as transparent as they did, even sharing with team members on a daily basis about how much money they were losing by not seeing patients, and the number of cases that we saw and how our PPE count looked throughout each and every day. But like I said, I think that vulnerability and the transparency really is what allowed everyone to feel safe and confident and comfortable in the fact that this is an organization that knows how to care for its people and its community. And so with that, I just wanted to say thank you, and again, appreciate the opportunity to be a part of the program today. And NAWBO, we just look forward to the continued partnership. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Megan, for all your support and the support of Orlando Health. Our health is the most important thing we have, and we're so lucky to have the support of Orlando Health to keep our community well, especially during this time. I am Dr. Brunel. There was a question in the chat, and I see that you're still on. Great question, Julie Bolton. These are some questions that we women don't honestly sometimes have the guts to ask, so I really appreciate you bringing up some really good questions. If Dr. Brunel, you could go and answer that question from Julie in our chat, that would be wonderful. Moving right along though, I want to introduce Erica Lugo. Our final speaker today for the event is Erica Lugo. Erica is a bona fide weight loss inspiration to her hundreds of thousands of followers worldwide. After reaching a peak weight of over 300 pounds, she made the decision to change her life once and for all and lost an incredible 160 pounds in 2 years. Erica is a dedicated mother, a thyroid cancer survivor, and is the founder of the Erica Fit Love and Fit Love Fuel. She has also appeared on the cover of Women's Health magazine, She is focused on helping people of all shapes and sizes heal their health from the inside out. You may recognize her as the trainer of the winner of USA Network's The Biggest Loser from earlier this year. It's my honor to present our final speaker for today's program, Erica Lugo. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. That was quite an introduction, and I wish I could have that every single day, and I wish my husband would present me that way too. So I just first off want to say thank you so much for allowing me to be part of this event. It's one of my favorite things to do, is to talk to women who are like-minded, who, especially during this time, we're having a hard time navigating our lives, our businesses, and our own wellness. So it's really important for me just to share my message and where I come from and what I want to do to help support everyone, not just you, but everyone that's even around you. Because when you start to take care of yourself, it's like a trickle effect and it's a domino effect, and it helps other people around you. So first off, she already gave an amazing introduction about me, so thank you for that. But a little bit of background about me. My name is Erica Lugo, and it's going to soon be Erica McGady. But I got started in my journey probably about 7 years ago. I weighed 322 pounds. I have been bigger. I like to use bigger as a word. I've been bigger my whole life. I'm 5'11". I am very tall, and I just have a very big bone structure. And I come from a Hispanic family where we eat, drink, and eat some more. So weight loss and food and nutrition and healthy living and fitness were just never discussed in my household. So it's just kind of piled on as my life went on. You know, then I went to college and I learned to live on my own for the first time, and I had no one to tell me no. There was no one telling me, no, Erica, that's not good for you, and pizza every night's probably not the way to live, and no working out and sleeping until noon. So I piled on the weight then, and then I met my ex-husband shortly after that, got married, got happy pounds, then I got pregnant, and then the weight just came on, and I severely struggled with postpartum depression as well. So you can just understand, if you've had any phases of those in your life, that you understand it's hard to navigate, especially when you have unhealthy relationships with food. So my weight just piled on. And then my son was about 3 years old, and I remember it was clear as day. Everyone always asks me, what was that pivotal moment in your weight loss journey? Because keep in mind, I've tried to lose weight my whole life. All I remember from weight loss was my mother squeezing into a size 12 jeans, and she'd be like, oh, those diet pills that I was taking, they're finally working. And that's what I thought fitness was, and that's what I thought wellness was just taking a diet pill. So my son was 3, and he was sitting on the floor, and I'll never forget, he looked up at me, cute as can be, and asked me to play with him. And I told him no. And I told him no because I was eating like Cheez-Its or Goldfish. I just got done working a really long 9 to 6 job. I didn't have any energy to get up and play with him, and I didn't want to have to pick up the toys. I didn't want to have to get up off the couch. If you've ever been in that position, you completely understand. And I told him no. And something in me just clicked. And I was like, wow, I just told my 3-year-old son, no, I can't play with him. And something just like lit a fire in me. And I remember getting on the scale the next day, and it said 322 pounds. And my heart just went whoosh. Because at that time I was in my mid-20s, and I just thought, wow, I'm 322 pounds. I'm in my 20s. My son's 3 years old. I can't keep up with him. Something has to change. So a local gym next to me, Planet Fitness, who, full circle later, I'll tell you a story about that. But Planet Fitness was opening up next to me, and I decided just to go for it. And I started right away. If that meant getting up at 5 in the morning to work out before my son woke up, that's what I did. I remember that's all I started with, was just a gym and simple steps. You know, I'm so thankful I lost weight when I did, because nowadays it's so confusing on how to lose weight. I'm a weight loss instructor, and I understand how confusing it is because we're so oversaturated with all these things on social media. But I tell everyone, including my clients, start with the basics. That's what I did. They are basics for a reason, and they work. So I just started walking on the treadmill, making healthier choices, and then my journey just evolved from there. I had to learn the hard way. I fell on my face a million times, but I picked myself back up. There were days I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to eat well. I didn't want to work out. But it all is about the consistency, and that's what matters in the end. So I started sharing my journey on Instagram. And at the time I was working in an HR position. That's what I did for a living before. I was a safety HR director. And I was just sharing my journey on social media. And I was very blessed and thankful that at the time when I got started on Instagram, there was no such thing as influencers. I even hate calling myself influencer, but that's what it was becoming. So I remember one day a big page that had millions of followers picked me up and shared my transformation story. I had lost about 75 pounds at this point. And my Instagram just started blowing up with followers. Now, did I ever think I would have a business with fitness back then? Absolutely not. But I've always had a very entrepreneurial spirit. You know, as a little kid, I was always doing lemonade stands or seeing how much I can trade my sister for this and to make more money than what it was really worth. I just always loved that entrepreneurial drive. So I remember getting all these followers and I thought, okay, all these people are asking me for the same information, how I lost 75 pounds. What can I do to build a business about this? It was football Sunday. And I told my then ex-husband, I said, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and write an ebook. I had no idea what an ebook was at the time. I just knew it was something that I could easily send to people. So I Googled how to make a landing page and an ebook and attach my PayPal to it. Took me all day long. And finally it was 8 o'clock at night and we were about to go watch the second game with family. And I said, okay, I'm going to put this live on my website. And if I even get enough money to buy a pair of Nikes, I'm going to call this a success. So I leave and I come back and I sold over 500 ebooks in 4 hours. And that right there was my cue of like, okay, there's something to my journey and I could do something with this. So I just started sharing more of my weight loss journey. I ended up losing over 160 pounds. And if you go back to my Instagram, you can actually see my whole journey from about 50 pounds into 160 pounds lost if you scroll all the way back, if you got time to do that. But then I decided to go ahead and get certified as a trainer because I wanted to train people online. And that's how I got my training start. So I took a certification course and I got certified. So I started doing my online business. But then I'm a very big people person and I felt I was missing a connection. So I decided at this time, and I had through this course, I had gotten divorced and I became a single mom for the first time in my life. I had $0 in my bank account after I went ahead and paid my deposit for my apartment for me and my son, $0 in my bank account, and was praying that I would get some kind of, you know, the paycheck would come through, my bonus was coming through with work. And thankfully in the next week I had a bonus come through at work and it was an extra $500 in my bank account after my bills were paid. And I decided to take that money and open up a studio. Now with $500, could you imagine what kind of studio I would have? Not a very glamorous one. I found an old garage within walking distance to my apartment. It used to be an auto body shop. And this little old man was so nice. He was like, oh, we'll go ahead and say $400 a month. And I was like, that's it? Keep in mind, it smelled like gas. It smelled like car paint. It was dingy. It was dark. We had no windows. We only had a garage door to get in and out. I ended up buying all my equipment secondhand, and I decided to open up my first ever fitness studio. And I was scared beyond belief. But I've taken that fitness studio and I've been able to grow it into a beautiful studio that I have now, where I have 4 other trainers working at my studio. Also in that time, I was very, very lucky to get picked up by Women's Health magazine. And I was America's Next Fitness Star. So I got to be on a cover of a national magazine. And coming from someone who was 322 pounds to now being on a cover of a national magazine was absolutely just mind-blowing. And then I got even more blessed where major TV shows were taking notice of me, and I got to partner with Rachel Ray, and I got to do more than a couple segments with her about weight loss and fitness. And then the Today Show, Meredith Vieira, if you remember, she had a TV show back in the day. And then I actually wanted to have my own show. I felt I love fitness so much. I want to be able to share what I believe fitness is for people. If you follow my journey, I am a very real and authentic person. I lost 160 pounds. I have stretch marks. I have loose skin. I had a baby. I am very honest about it. It's not very glamorous. It's not beautiful. It's hard work. You're going to cry. You're going to hate it. You're going to have bad days. And I want to be able to share with that on a national scale that you are going to look like this, or you may struggle with this. You don't have to be a picture perfect fitness model. to be considered healthy or beautiful or strong or amazing. And I wanted to share that. So I actually came out with my own show. It was me and 2 people. We filmed, produced, wrote everything. It's called I Am. I highly recommend you go find it. If you write down this website, indigo.life, you'll be able to find a full 10 episode where I take 10 women from my area of Dayton, Ohio, and I spend a whole summer with them, helping them lose weight and find their well. So then let's fast forward just a little bit more. Right when I went ahead and got my brand new studio, I was diagnosed with stage 2 thyroid cancer. I got in a really bad car accident. I blacked out while I was driving. And in my MRI to see if my head and my neck were okay, we found a small mass on the right side of my neck, which in turn is what made me actually pass out while I was driving. I should not have survived that car accident. My car was completely totaled. And I walked away with 0 bumps and bruises and nothing wrong with me except finding that lump in my neck. And I just got goosebumps just talking about it, because I don't talk about it very often, because it was a really scary moment in my life. I didn't think, I would get out of that car accident alive. So in that MRI, the day after Thanksgiving, I go ahead and get a needle biopsy, and the doctor comes in with a white face, completely looks different after my needle biopsy, and tells me, you have stage 2 thyroid cancer and it has already spread to your lymph nodes. And that's all he told me, and handed me a piece of paper. And I remember I just signed my lease on my brand new studio. I just put $25,000 of my own money into the studio. I was terrified. I was still a single mom. I had no idea what I was going to do. So I got, in 2019, January 2019, I got a full thyroidectomy, and they took away 33 lymph nodes, which were also cancerous. And then in March of 2019, I got radiation. So I had to be isolated from my son and my animals for 10 days because I was literally radioactive. And then that same year, June, I got connected with a casting producer who told me, you have to try out for this show. And I remember telling this casting producer, she said, it's a weight loss show and we need trainers. And I said, well, if it's anything like The Biggest Loser, I don't want to do it. And she goes, well, it's The Biggest Loser. And I thought, heck on my tongue. And she said, going to be a completely different aspect. It's going to be a full 180. We're focusing on more of a holistic approach. It's not going to be like anything it was before. So I decided to go ahead and go for it. And I went through the interview process just months after doing radiation and cancer surgery in January. And in July, I was offered a Biggest Loser position. I got the job. I had 24 hours, less than that, to pack up my life. I just bought a new house on my own. My studio was starting to boom. I just got done with my cancer treatments. Life was kind of a whirlwind at that point. And I had about 12 hours to pack my bags to be gone for 4 months while I filmed this show that no one could know about because it had to be a secret until it got released months later. So 2019 was a major, major year for me. And then I got to film The Biggest Loser as Team Red Trainer. What an amazing experience. I'm so very thankful and blessed for that experience. And don't want to toot my own horn, but me and my team won. Jim lost 144 pounds and became the Biggest Loser winner for this past season. So fast forward even more, I got back and I got engaged in December, and then life hit, right? My business was starting to boom here in Centerville, Ohio, my studio. We have over 100 clients. I needed more trainers, and then COVID hit. Just like the last presenter said, we don't need to know what COVID-19 is. We've been hearing about it for months and how it's drastically changed our lives. So I've had to pivot so many things with my business. And my own health and wellness, right? I think a lot of us have when it comes to our businesses, being entrepreneurs or just being someone who wants to learn to take care of themselves. One thing I will tell everyone is you can control 2 things. And those 2 things are your attitude and your effort. And I preach that to the people on the show. I preach that to my online clients. I preach it to my in-studio clients. Your attitude and your effort, especially during COVID-19, is the 2 things that you can control. We have no control over all these outside influences. I have no control over the governor shutting my business down. He did. I lost 3 months worth of revenue when it came down to closures. And I just remember, okay, attitude and effort. My husband also owns a business. He designs homes, and that was completely shut down as well. We just had blended our family together for the first time. We moved in with each other for the first time in February, and we got locked down in March. So I don't know if you've ever had to do that in your lifetime, but getting engaged and moving in with not a stranger, but moving in with another adult for the first time after I've been divorced for 7 years, and blending 2 families, 3 kids combined and 3 dogs combined, was very stressful. And not only that, thinking that your businesses are also going to shut down during this time. But I had a conversation with my husband in that room right over there. We call it our Zen room. We made a Zen room during COVID-19 because we felt like we needed a spot to actually sit and collect our thoughts and actually have a spot where we could let all the outside noise go away. And we told ourselves that that spot was our Zen room, and there's no negative thinking in the Zen room. So I remember we were sitting there one day, and he was almost in tears because his business of almost 15 years was about to shut down. He was almost going to lose everything because of the lockdown. I said, we can control 2 things. We can control attitude and effort and how we decide to pivot our businesses and how we decide to pivot our own well-being. So that's something that we've done throughout the whole COVID. Is he'll even come home and be like, how's your attitude and effort today? So I want to talk a little bit about how I've been able to get through COVID, because as someone whose business is being with people, it's really impacted how I do things. And I was really fearful for a while, right? How do I continue to impact people when it's virtually like this? How do I continue to impact people when I'm such a hugger and I feel personal connection is major? How do I continue to move forward when things are locked down? Or should I even move forward when people are in a really hard spot? Should I feel okay and happy and excited about making plans to move forward when people are losing their jobs, their feel for their health, their feel for their kids and their family, or maybe they've experienced some trauma with COVID-19? Is it okay for me to feel like my business and my own wellness should still be in check and moving forward? So what I've done is I've had to completely, obviously all fitness trainers, we went virtual and we started working outdoors. I don't know where you are, but that's something that we've done. Also with gyms being closed down, I had a really, really hard time. As a national fitness trainer, my husband would always say, Erica, you are a national TV fitness trainer. How are you not motivated to work out during COVID-19? Like, your body is your business. And I myself even struggled with that. And the biggest thing that I had to find was I had to learn to give myself grace, but also there's a fine line between grace and excuses. I tell everyone that there's sometimes where we're like, okay, you can give yourself a little bit of grace, but are you using grace as a crutch, as an excuse, as, oh, well, I've had it, COVID-19's been really hard, so everyone's kind of feeling this way, so it's okay if I also gain the COVID-19, or I also don't know how to work out during this time. You have to get creative. You know, something as simple as these chairs right here, you can do ab workouts, you can do tricep workouts, you can do push-ups, you can do step-ups. There's so many things that you have to do and can do, but creating a schedule was the biggest thing. Creating a schedule for me and my family at the time. And just like you schedule your Zoom calls, just like you schedule your dinner with your kids and your family, you have to schedule an appointment with yourself. And I would always use the analogy, you would never cancel on your boss. If your boss said, okay, we need to meet at 3 o'clock every Thursday, would you cancel your meeting with your boss for your job? That's your livelihood, right? You're not going to cancel that. So why don't we treat ourselves like we're our own boss and we're our own business? Why don't we treat our bodies like that for once? So I have to schedule appointments with myself. And even today, I normally work out after I train my Saturday clients, and I knew I had this today. So on my watch, it's going to ping off here in about 25 minutes that I need to go to the gym because I scheduled it in my day before my other appointments. So I know all of you guys out there are just now getting out of lockdown and things are semi-normal, if we're ever going to have a normal again. But just remember that you can control 2 things, which is your attitude and your effort, and treat yourself like you are your own boss, because you would never cancel on your own boss. So I hope this helped. I know you guys have had great speakers and amazing doctors and great people, but I hope you know that at the end of the day, there's hope for everyone, regardless of what boat that you're in, whether that might be weight loss, finances, health, or relationships. I think that's all we need to know at the end of the day, is that there is hope. And I hope you guys realize someone coming who was 322 pounds, was penniless, was a cancer diagnosis, started off as a single mom with 0 money in her bank account. If I can turn my life around and chase my dreams and do what I've done, it's completely possible for you to get done what you want to get done. The sky is the limit. I tell everyone that, no matter how cheesy and cliche that sounds. I will tell you time and time again, if you control your attitude and your effort, there is more than enough room for you to reach your goals. So I hope you guys enjoyed this event. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it. I hope it motivated and inspired you, but have a great weekend.
Wow, thank you. Yes, it was great motivation, and I love the attitude and effort. I'm going to start asking my family that. How was your attitude and effort? Erica, if you would, please put in the chat box how we can reach you and follow you. I know many of our attendees today would like to do that. So we're almost time to wrap up, but not quite. We're going to get a word in from Cassie. If Cassie Wheeler could come on, she is an entrepreneur and she focuses on our NAWBO president for one, so for NAWBO Orlando. And I wanted to bring Cassie on to provide what great opportunities NAWBO offers, and also let us know a little bit about what is to come with NAWBO Orlando this year on some great events I'm sure that are coming up soon.
Thank you so much, Kate, and thank you to all of our amazing presenters today. Thank you to Erica, to Tina, to Allison, to Dr. Stephanie, Megan. Thank you so much for the support of Dr. Burnell, of Dr. Hill, as well as Dr. Sine. I am so thrilled today has come together so well. And Kate, thank you for your amazing hosting. Of course, in the world of COVID, I have wild storms outside my window right now, so I apologize if you can hear that. Thank you all for attending today. This has been a really great and successful way to provide a lot of information. Right now, more than ever, health, wellness, and self-care are so key, but part of this puzzle also includes your business. So I would highly recommend that you go through and check out some of the exciting things that we have coming up, both at the local as well as the national level. Locally here, NAWBO Orlando has our Women Who Win series. On Wednesday this week, we actually have a representative from the United States Patent and Trademark Office, an attorney, and one of our other Propel Her finalists. We heard from Jackie earlier. We actually will hear from Dr. Pamela Allison from Fluffy Fizzies about her journey with her business. So if you want more information, you can visit nowboorlando.org. In addition to that, you can follow us on Facebook. And on our Facebook page, you'll see upcoming events, including our coffee conversation on Thursday with RSM, talking about some of the important financial planning aspects for women business owners. And you also have the first of our 25th anniversary events. So our president-elect, Lena Grimhorst, has been working hard planning these amazing events for the 25th anniversary. So watch for more announcements coming up. We are excited to celebrate 25 years. Here at home in Orlando, we celebrated 45 years, as you can see from my background, earlier this summer with NAWBO National. In addition to that, talking about NAWBO National, we have Women's Business Conference that'll be kicking off September 21st, which is a great opportunity. So if you visit NAWBO.org, you can get some really good details about that event, including author Glennon Doyle providing a really great presentation as one of the keynotes that you do not want to miss. Little tip, she's live. So if you're not live, you're going to miss out. So make sure you hop on live. Also, NAWBO National is providing NAWBO Institute and Connect calls weekly. And we here in NAWBO Orlando are absolutely thrilled because Demetria Hill Sloan, who was on earlier, I don't know if she's on right now because my view has changed, sorry, is presenting She and Heavy, She's My Sister, Leading, Working, and Growing Together on September 29th at noon. So you can go on to register to hear that event on the national platform. And then as always, you want to watch for any updates that we have coming up as we roll out through the remainder of the year and beyond. So with that, I want to give humble thanks to everybody who's attended and spoken today. I thank you so much for your participation and attendance. And we'll go ahead and turn the floor back over to Kate to wrap up. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Cassie. Well, we cannot thank you all enough for attending and actually for all the information that was shared today for our women. Our health is truly our greatest asset, and self-care is vital for our success, both personally and professionally. So thank you for all the wonderful information, and I hope all of the attendees got some extra tips this morning of how to take care of yourself. If you did share your mailing address information earlier this week, hopefully your swag bag is either delivered or on the way. And I want to thank Carolyn Castile from Clickable Impact for mailing our goodie bags to us. We'll find some great treats and other self-care items and fun piece of NAWBO swag too. So thank you to our sponsor for today's event, Orlando Health, and to Megan for all of your support of NAWBO Orlando and our community. We wish you all a great Saturday, and go get motivated and be healthy. Thank you all for attending. Bye-bye.